Welcome everyone. This is Scotty from Raising Fishes. So the question to everyone out there, are we getting brainwashed by YouTubers out there? What do you think? I think in some ways, yes we are. So let me explain to you my thoughts here. So recently I've watched several YouTube videos, even one of my own that I created, and they really got me to thinking a little differently on what am I doing as a fish keeper in this hobby here with my own fish. So I'm going to link these videos in the description, and I really encourage all of you to go and watch these videos and really listen to the content, because it'll make you rethink what you may or may not be doing in the hobby. So the first video I'll mention is one that I did, and I did a video on my channel called Does TDS Matter? And then just recently Patty's Aquatics did a live stream with Cory from Aquarium Coop. Very good interview, or live stream I should say. Very interesting conversations, and you know, Cory has a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, and he has a lot of good points that he brought up in that live stream. So I encourage you to go look at that live stream video that Patty's Aquatics did. And then Jose from Joy of Fish Keeping, he did a reaction to that video, which was also very interesting. And you know, I mean, it speaks a lot of truth to this subject that I'm talking about being brainwashed. And then finally, the other day, Troy from Cichlid Bros did a video on water changes, or are water changes necessary? So those videos will all be linked in the description of this video. I encourage you to go over there and take a look at all these videos and really absorb the content, right? Listen to what they're saying, you know. They're not saying anything bad. These guys are smart. They're very knowledgeable in what they do. But like I say, this is between the video that I made and their videos. It really made me rethink, what am I doing in my planted tanks? Am I just lazy? So let's get started with this. So with that said, the fish tubers that I respect very much, and I listen to them, and they've really made me rethink, like I said, what I'm doing here in my little fish room, my little world of fish keeping. Just bear in mind, I'm not telling you that you have to do what I'm doing my way. Nope, I ain't saying that. What I'm saying, what works for me works for me. You keep doing what works for you. That's all I'm saying. And I just want to share the experience that I just recently had and learned something new. And I just want to share that experience with everyone out there. So let's get into the subject at hand. Basically, I've been taught, or like I say, brainwashed over the years, that if you have a heavily planted tank, that water changes are not necessary. You don't need to do it. If your parameters are good, your nitrates are low, and like these tanks right behind me are dirty tanks. My nitrates in them is generally 0, or maybe 50, if that, at most. You know, these tanks, the plants really do take care of the water. So we've been inundated with, you know, if your plants are taking care of water, you don't need to do water changes. You don't need to do water. So I've been an advocate. Don't do water changes, and I haven't done water changes in any of my planted tanks. I just top them off. So that sounds great, right? I mean, you can do this, it saves you some time. It's just, how do I say it? Maybe it's making us lazier, I guess, as fish keepers, because we can save time. But anyway, it sounds great that we can do less work, you know, so I'm all in for that. That's the mentality that was instilled into me, or I learned it through YouTube, or just learning by testing my water. Like, oh, I don't need to change water. My parameters are great. All right. Or even like mentioned in, I think Cory had mentioned it, you know, in the live stream, that, you know, it's just an excuse for people to be lazy. And I would add to that, or we use it for the name of being more efficient. You know, I like to do things more efficiently. You know, I get it. You know, we're all there. You know, we want to, especially if you have multiple tanks. If you have a single tank or 2 tanks, it's really no big deal. But for us to have 8, 9, 10 tanks, 20 tanks, 30 tanks, you want to be efficient. I get it. You know. So anyway, let's dig into what I just recently experienced. So just recently, you know, I did a video on my 40 breeder over here, and it's all been neon tetras and black tetras, or the black neons, or whatever you want to call them. But I had like 30 of them in there, and all of a sudden, like, they're gone. They're just dissipating little by little. And so I did a video on it, and I didn't know what was causing it. So, like every good fish keeper, what do? Let's go check the water parameters. My parameters are fine. pH is good, water's good, nitrates are good, no ammonia. You know, I'm like, oh, what's causing it? And that's the frustrating part, that, you know, if you don't know what's causing your fish loss. So, in that video that I did for the fish loss, I explained I didn't know why they were dying off. But in that video, I also mentioned that, well, maybe I should check my TDS, right? And because I rarely ever, if any, test my TDS. And I think the only reason why I got a TDS meter is because at one point, several years back, I was trying to do discus, and so I was doing RO water, and so I bought a TDS meter. But anyhow, I found out later, you know, like a day or two later after I did that video, what was actually killing my fish or attacking them was my Siamese algae eater. So I removed him. And since that day, I haven't lost another fish. So I guess I found the problem. So that was cool. But because I'm sold on the idea that tanks, you know, my fish tanks don't need water changes because my nitrates are good and the parameters are all good, I'm fine. And like I say, I mentioned it in many of my videos that I don't do water changes. I was proud that I didn't do water changes. I didn't have to do them, you know, and in my planted tanks. I just top them off as needed. So, you know, I was happy with that. So, a little backstory, you know, here in Texas, our water here, it's pretty hard. And so just testing the tap water straight out of the tap with a TDS meter, it reads like 164, which is about midway in the hard side. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. So, so after doing that fish loss video, I decided, let me go test my planted tanks for the TDS. And I was surprised, really was. So most of my tanks were in the high 400s of TDS. And then I had one of my dirted tanks, my little 20 gallon that sits down here. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but it was reading 620 something. I forget the actual number. So that's like, whoa. So if you have a TDS meter like I do, let me find it here. I got it sitting right here. You know, on the back of my meter, it has this little scale. And the scale reads that at around 490, the EPA says that that is the maximum contaminant level. So if the water's not good for us to drink at that level, it can't be good for our fish, right? That's what I'm saying. So I learned something here. And you know, it's my own fault. So because I was sold on the idea that I don't need to do water changes. Once again, brainwashed, whatever you want to call it. And so all I did was top off. And I believe by topping off, all I'm doing is adding more and more minerals to the water. You know, the plants, the fish, and everything else, the bio stuff that grows in your tank, your moam, because I don't vacuum these tanks either. I let the moam get there to, you know, fertilize the plants. It turns into fuel for the plants. So that's why my TDS is really high. And so like I said, if 490 by the scale EPA is the highest range maximum for human consumption, what about my fish? So I said, all right. So from this point on, I am now going to water change my planted tanks, all of them. My goal here is to start with once a month water changes for my planted tanks. And the goal is to try to get my TDS to stay in the 250 or less range. To me, that's acceptable and doable. So that is what I've learned or unlearned about doing water changes in heavily planted tanks. So that's for me. That's what I learned. If your planted tanks are doing fine and you've never tested TDS, give it a shot. See what your TDS looks like. If you're in a soft water area, you probably won't have as much a problem as you do like here where I'm at, because I have a hard water, you know. So it's just a thought out there to put out there. I'm not telling you that you got to do it and you have to do it. Whatever works for you, so be it, brothers. Just do it. I'm just saying this is what I've learned for me. And when I was shocked by the high rate of TDS in my one tank and all the other tanks, like I say, they're in the upper 400s. And so that was an eye-opening experience for me. So just to wrap things up real quick, I just want to say that there's really a lot of great fish tubers out there. And many of them are much smarter than me. So I'm not bad-mouthing anybody that says anything about one way or another. You know, there's people like Father Fish, he'll say don't do water changes. And then you got someone like Caveman Aquatics, and he's like, water change, everything, every day, you know. You've got to find what balances for you, right? So just don't let the latest craze on YouTube get you brainwashed. You've got to do what works best for you and for your particular situation. Use your own experience and thinking for being the best fish keeper you can be for your fish. With that all said, I just want to wish you all a very happy new year, and may God bless you in the year of 2025, and thank you for watching. I appreciate every one of you. And that wraps things up. Thank you. Bye-bye.